Segment 2, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. All of our segments are up on the web at www.ntnm.org. There's over 1,000 interviews available on YouTube, over 300,000 shows watched. Please check us out. Community Policing, KEPS24.org. Very big on community policing, and we thank the 24th District for being so proactive along those lines. And Sonny Hirsch, in his spare time, is the chairman of the District Advisory Committee of the 24th District. As I've told you over the course of many shows, I meet a lot of people on Facebook, and it's a great place to network, and you never know who you're going to meet. And there's people who get to be guests and, customers, all kinds of things. So I was approached by my next guest to have a debate-type discussion about the pension situation going on in schools. And we originally had a guest to rival the other opinion, but the union said, And then we tried to find a replacement, but so, you know what? If the union doesn't want to come out and represent themselves in various two different unions we tried, I can't help it, but, there's no reason that my next guest shouldn't present the case he wants to present. And it's not my job to be a foil that way. I'm going to interview him, and let's hear what he has to say about it. I'm talking about Professor Joe Dusek of Triton College. How are you?
Pleasure, Avi. Thanks for having me on.
First of all, pleasure. My pleasure is mine, and it's good to meet you.
Same.
After all the good Facebook stuff.
That's true.
Because Facebook can be a fun place. You just have to sort through the chaff quite a bit.
A lot.
A real lot.
True.
So what subject do you teach?
Math. My forte is statistics, though.
So I didn't realize that when I was talking to you.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about OPS and baseball and a half.
Sounds good. Okay, sounds good.
But in any event, so you're over to Triton, which is it's on basically River Road and North Avenue, approximately.
Yeah.
Not North Avenue, a little north of that.
No, right on, like pretty close to North Avenue and River Road and River Grove.
Yeah, I remember when I used to go to Maywood Park. I remember the drive, to tell you the truth.
People know the Maywood Park Racetrack or the old Kitty Land, whenever they want to know where it's at. So it's right by those two.
Yeah, I remember when there was a Kitty Land there, and there was also a restaurant that was bombed out by the mafia, but that was many years ago.
It was before my time. Okay.
Not mine. Not mine. And by the way, horse racing is a good place to use your statistic.
You're right. I clean up every week.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
No, yeah, clean up the floor after you lose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's funny because everybody I know that goes to the casino or goes to the racetrack always wins.
Yeah, and people never say that they never report their losses. It's always the win that they get. And they don't tell you they lost 300 last week, even though they won 100 this week.
Yeah, it's amazing that the racetracks and the casinos can stay in business with all these people winning.
I have to use that in my class. That's good.
Thank you. So, okay, we're in a very serious situation. We're in places like Chicago and the state of Illinois. The numbers aren't exactly correct. I'll let you be the statistical expert here. But close to 25% of the budgets are going for pensions right now.
Correct. Even worse than that, in the state of Illinois, they've been using proceeds from bonds to cover pension debt as well. And bonds, of course, are supposed to be used for infrastructure improvements. We've reached a point in Illinois where we're basically using bond revenue not for infrastructure and for the future, but to cover current operating expenses.
Yeah, I am aware of that. People don't realize. I mean, our first guest earlier, who I happen to like a lot. When the previous governor is governor of a state for 6 years, who, if we're lucky, we're 49th if we're doing well in a subject out of 50 states, and so often we're last. It's not even funny. It's ridiculous the way the state is being run. And people don't realize it's like, the Tribune tries to make the point, like, for instance, with Ronner, and I'm not saying good, bad, or ugly, but the Tribune makes the point that he inherited a mess, and he's trying to keep things to budget. And that's going to make him a bad guy because you cut all these programs are wonderful if you can afford them. Nobody's against most of these programs. Well, I'm against a lot of regulation, but it's another story.
Okay.
So, but anyway, it's your case to make. So, what do you see as being reasonable? Is there a reasonable solution? Is there a way to get out of the pension problem?
Okay. Frankly, no, I don't see one. We've dug such an incredible hole for ourselves Both parties are responsible for it, quite frankly. Essentially, to kind of make it simple, what's happened is state employees contribute a certain amount of their paycheck towards what's called, well, for me anyway, SURS, the State University Retirement System, and the state government is supposed to match that. They haven't been doing that for a number of years. I'm really not sure how long, actually.
Well, I do know, and it's true, but I can tell you statistically speaking that when George Ryan left office, the state funds were on average 73 to 74% paid in.
Okay.
And I think now they're in the 40s and dropping.
Wouldn't surprise me. And, again, like everyone says, if you think about it, the state workers, they haven't done anything wrong. I mean, they've done their job, they've made their contributions as they should. And, Rauner, for all the bad-mouthing he's getting, has always said that, a promise is a promise. What you've put into your pension, at least so far, you get to keep. In terms of what the state owes you. The retirees will absolutely not be touched. These are his words. These are what was on his campaign website. And what you've contributed so far, the state will definitely match. So now, where we go from here, that's another story.
Yeah, now, let me ask you, do you get... Is this the sole retirement? Do you also have Social Security, or that's...
Great point. I was going to bring that up later. A lot of people don't realize that, at least with SURS, for the teachers, we don't contribute to Social Security, so we don't get Social Security, at least not for this employment. Obviously, if we worked somewhere else before, that's a different story. But
so
no, we do not get it.
This is it. And not
Correct.
only that, too, but the fact is that certain jobs pay less initially because the benefits are better.
Correct.
Like I've got a neighbor who's a crossing guard, which isn't exactly a high-paying job, but when she signed on, the benefits were incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Benefits may be too high. Sorry, Mary, but the fact is that that's the deal she made. The city changed things about 10 years ago, so anybody coming in now, I mean, you know what? For working for a part-time job, she's got full health insurance for her husband or children. Okay, I'm not saying the pension is dramatically gigantic or anything like that, but full health insurance for your entire family for basically a half, for working, it's actually considered a 4 hour a day job, so 20 hours and full health insurance. Okay. At one time, that was actually affordable. In the 90s, I had full health insurance, and I mean full health insurance for $45 a month. I had a $5,000 deductible, and I paid now $1,500. I basically I would pay $1,500 for the first $5,000.
Okay.
And then I was covered 100% up to $1 million a year for $45 a month.
That was good.
Yeah. Now it's like forget that.
I guess so.
So is there? Okay. Do you see? Is there anything that you think makes more sense that somebody's saying right now?
Well, I'd be open to the idea of an optional, going from a defined contribution plan or defined benefit plan to a defined contribution plan. What's currently in place is that the state employees have a defined benefit plan, meaning that basically no matter what happens, that benefit is secure, until they pass away, once they start collecting their retirement. One option that's been floated is the idea of giving current employees the optional of going to a defined contribution where you make contributions and the return is based on the marketplace as opposed to something that's guaranteed by the state. There's pros and cons to both, but the latter would definitely save a lot of money in the future.
See, at one time, and once again, I am a statistics geek myself, but not your kind. One of the biggest knocks against Social Security when I was in my 20s was that if you took that same money and just made like investments in mutual funds or something like that, or a typical investment would have yielded you, or even into an insurance annuity type thing, you would have gotten 2 to 3 times the money that you would get from over Social Security.
Yeah, I agree. I'd much rather have control over the money myself as opposed to being sent to the state. Now, a benefit, of course, is the matching. They do match it. At least they're supposed to. They don't, which is a whole other story. But personally, I'd rather have the control over the funds myself. And I know a lot of people that would as well. The problem is, if you think about it, it's become such a Ponzi scheme in the sense that if you have however many employees suddenly no longer contributing, then what's in place would collapse even faster. So that's what I mean by I don't know a way to solve it, because even if we offered something like that, the current system would collapse that much quicker because we wouldn't be contributing. And that's not fair to the people who have paid in for all those years. So what do you do?
It's true, and the fact is that that's the deal you make when you came in the first place. I honestly believe, by the way, that Madigan and Cullerton knew full well that the deal they made last year was going to be knocked out by the court.
I think so.
And it was just a buying time type situation.
Exactly. It kicked the can, like always, it kicked the can down the road, and now it's like, well, we tried. I mean, they got to go back and say, well, we tried to fix it. Courts knocked it down, sorry.
Yeah. But they knew, not to mention the fact that there's a good percentage of those judges that owe their lives to Madigan.
True. It's a whole other story. Entirely.
Yeah, no, we have some of the finest elected officials money can buy.
That's a good one.
Thank you. No, listen, it's so easy to say things about Illinois politicians, mostly because they're true.
Exactly. Boom.
Mostly because they're true. So is there any statistic? I mean, at best, can things pick up? I mean...
not without turning the economy around. I mean, the only theoretical way, I think, to save the state is by generating revenue, not through increased taxes, but through increased business. And as you mentioned in the previous segment, were we either number 1 or 2 in terms of people that are leaving the state and the country?
Depending on which state. As a matter of fact, the Tribune did a recent poll and gave people 4 options. This is just in the last week. And, do you like the state? Are you staying here? Are you moderately like the state? Are you thinking about leaving? Do you have one foot out the door? The response was over 50%. I'm thinking about leaving, or my foot's going to be out the door here.
I'm not surprised. The
population here, Illinois at one time was the 4th largest state in the country. And that was in the 60s and the 70s. And now it's completely dwarfed. Illinois had 26 representatives in Congress, and I think it's down to 19 now, something like that.
In the teens.
The situation's completely turned around. Chicago had a net gain of 82 people in the last year, and the fact is Chicago's population in 1960, see, I told you I know statistics, was 3,620,000 people.
Wow.
And it's a whole million less now.
Look at it now.
And there's a lot of good reasons for that.
A few other numbers, too. I mean, the national average spending on higher ed per student is about, I think it's $6,300, $6,500. In Illinois, the spending per higher ed student is, I think, $12,300. So it's almost twice that we're spending per student on higher ed, and yet some people continue to make the claim that we're not spending enough. I mean, the problem is, we're not spending enough.
It's, I've always thought that the relationship between the student and the teacher is primary.
Okay. And
most of these administrators can go jump.
There are some very top-heavy schools, that's true.
And, as a matter of fact, Baltimore, where they just had all these problems, spends the second most amount of money on their schools. And I believe Washington, D.C. is number 1, and their school system is horrid. So just throwing money at a problem, part of the problem, I once heard this wise old guy once said, sometimes people have to understand that some kids are just stupid.
Well, I'm not going to say that, but...
No, I mean, well, first of all, you're a junior college teacher, so hopefully they got some brains, coming in
hopefully.
There. Yeah. But anyway, listen, we're running out of time right now. I wish we could solve the problem, but, I think you're 100% right. I don't think it's solvable anytime in the near future. I think you've got to take steps to at least make it more equitable. Mm-hmm. But, it's like, if people don't think that, people are already talking about the idea of the Chicago public schools, for instance. I don't know if it was Ron or who said, they might as well go bankrupt.
Well, don't forget, they've got, the Chicago has that balloon payment coming up, I think,
$635 million.
Okay. That's due, and that amount is due. I mean, coming up later this year. I mean, that's just one microcosm illustration of the problem that we have. That's crazy.
It is crazy. Anyway, we really are out of time. I want to thank you very much, Professor Joe Dusek.
Appreciate it.
Statistics, mathematics, Triton College. Thanks to my entire tech crew, Sonny Hirsch. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Take care. Be well. Bye-bye.